So, the Premier League is well and truly back. So, here are my match week 26 predictions. It was a very interesting week of Premier League fixtures. Over the weekend, we did have a midweek fixture, Liverpool Everton, which means there were 11 games, and it's going to be the same this week. We do have a Liverpool Aston Villa versus Liverpool on a Wednesday night ahead of the weekend, so we're going to be talking about that game in today's video as well. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, go to my about section, and go follow me on TikTok. That's where I do most of my lives, where I live stream as many games as I can. But let's get into the predictions. So starting off, we have Aston Villa versus Liverpool at Villa Park, midweek game. This game wasn't set to be played for, I think, another month or so, but they've had to move it forward because it was supposed to be on the same week as the Carabao Cup final, and obviously the game was too close to the actual final, which means it's been moved up to this week. And I don't think that's very good for Liverpool, because it means that they have actually had to play 5 games in the span of 15 days, this being the third of that. They're obviously coming off a very mediocre win at the Molineux, which for their standards isn't exactly... It wasn't really a great performance, just because, they didn't even have a single attempt in that second half. Aston Villa also coming off a poor performance, but they didn't win. They actually failed to beat Ipswich Town at home, despite Ipswich going down to 10 men just before half-time. So yeah, really, neither team coming off emphatic wins. Liverpool also, again, drawing to Everton a week ago. So, look, it hasn't been as smooth as earlier in the season for Liverpool, but this is a big test for them, and it's also time where they can prove how good they are. Looking at their injury list, they've only got Cody Gakpo, who's doubtful for the game. It's expected that he's not going to play. They're going to rest him for the game against Manchester City. But Aston Villa, they've got a lot of injuries. They're without Amadou Onana, they're without Kamara, they're without Konsa. Don't know whether or not Bailey's going to play, Matty Cash either. No Torres. So yeah, they're really missing some players. And if you look at the head-to-head matchups between the two clubs, Liverpool did beat Aston Villa 2-0 earlier in the season. Liverpool are actually unbeaten against Aston Villa since that iconic 7-2 at Villa Park in the 2021 season. And look, could we see Villa sort of run that back? Maybe not the same scoreline, but, maybe beat Liverpool? I honestly don't think so. I just think, despite the fatigue, despite the fact that it's their third game in about a week, I still think Liverpool are going to get the job done. I don't think it's going to be a crazily convincing win, but I am going to go 2-1 Liverpool. I think they're going to get the win. Then just 2 days later, we have got Friday night football, where Leicester City are going to take on Brentford at the King Power Stadium. And we've got another Friday night game. Unlike the Chelsea game, I don't think I'm going to be watching this one. Looking at the injuries, neither team has a crazy amount. It looks like Leicester have got some more significant injuries with Fatawu and James Justin, bringing out Edouard too. So, look, I would expect Brentford to win this game. They are coming off a nice away win against West Ham United, a 1-0 win at the London Stadium. And Leicester, they need wins. I think they've only got 1 win in their last 10 games, and that was against a very out-of-form Spurs team. So, Leicester will take points wherever they get them. And Brentford, they're not a great away team. They're great at home, but away from home, I think they're like a bottom 5 team in the league, which is really weird because of just how good they are at the G-Tech, and they're currently sitting mid-table. So despite the fact that they are coming off a good away win, it will be interesting to see how Brentford do at the King Power. When they played Leicester earlier in the season, they absolutely smashed them 4-1 in December at the G-Tech. But as we've stated, they're a different team away from home, so could Leicester potentially get something from this game? Once again, I'm going to go with the away side. I think that Brentford, they're just too good. Their away form's been a little bit better than it was earlier in the season. I think they went like half the season with only getting one away win or something like that. They have actually picked up more better results. So I do think that Brentford are going to win this game. I'm going to say 2-0 to the Bees. Yeah, I don't really think Leicester are a very good team. I think they're getting relegated if I'm being completely honest. Next up, we have the early kickoff. Manchester United go away to Goodison Park where they will face Everton. Now, Everton, they have been absolutely incredible. They're unbeaten in their last four Premier League games, getting a nice draw against Liverpool and backing it up with a 2-1 win away at Selhurst Park. So really, ever since David Moyes has come in and got that big win over Spurs, he's actually been doing quite well with the Toffees. I think they sit 13th in the table, surprisingly, above Manchester United, who are all the way down in 15th. Yeah, they're really not doing great. I mean, they looked horrible in their loss to Spurs. They're just not looking very good at all. And if you add the injury crisis that they now find themselves in, no Amad Diallo for the rest of the season. Lenny Yoro is doubtful. They're also without Martinez, Luke Shaw, Garte, Mainu, Mount. They're just not really doing very well. So honestly, I don't see how Manchester United are going to go away to Goodison Park and win, despite the fact that when Everton came to Old Trafford, they got absolutely battered in one of United's best game of the season. But one thing that's interesting with that game is the player who I believe won man of the match, he scored 2 goals, Marcus Rashford, is no longer at the club, which means that they might find it tough to score against Everton, and I really think they do. This attack looks very, very poor. I do believe this fixture last season was when Garnacho scored that absolute worldie. He's coming off an absolute honker against Spurs. It might have been the home game where he did that. I can't remember, but I remember it was against Everton. But I don't think they're going to be able to replicate that. They have had some joy against Everton. I mean, if I look at the head-to-head, obviously beating them 4-0. They doubled them last season, 2-0 at Old Trafford, 3-0 at Goodison Park. They've actually won every game against Everton since April 2022 when they lost 1-0 Goodison Park. I don't think they're going to lose, but I can't see them winning. I'm going to go with Everton 1, Manchester United 1. I think that both teams split the points, and Everton continue their unbeaten Premier League run under David Moyes, and Man United sink even further down the table. It's genuinely a race for top half at this point. Next up, kicking off the 3 p.m. kickoffs, we have Bournemouth against Wolves. This seems like a pretty one-sided matchup, despite the fact that Bournemouth are going through an injury crisis. They've been absolutely incredible. I mean, they just got a nice 3-1 win at St. Mary's. Pretty much everyone expects to beat Southampton, especially even away from home. But I mean, they've just been on fire. I mean, they smashed Newcastle 4-1 at St James's Park a few weeks ago. That was an incredible result. And other than their home loss to Liverpool, who are the best team in the country, they've been doing just fine. And then you look at Wolves, who have had a really disgraceful season. I mean, they're finding themselves 2 points ahead of the relegation zone. It was a decent performance against Liverpool. I mean, on another day, they maybe could have picked up points at Anfield, which is obviously a good result. But I mean, other than that win against Aston Villa a couple of weeks ago, they really haven't been doing well. I mean, yeah, it just is not looking well for Wolves, and I don't really see how they're going to go away to the Vitality Stadium and get a result. I don't see it. If Wolves are going to pick up points in the season, later in the season, it's going to be against, the Ipswich Towns, the Leicesters, the Southamptons, maybe like a West Ham or a Manchester United. But yeah, they just, I don't know how they're going to go away to Bournemouth and get a win, much less a draw. I mean, even when Bournemouth came to the Molineux, they got smashed. They lost 4-2. Justin Kluivert scoring a hat-trick of penalties, I believe. So yeah, it's going to be tough for Wolves. I'm going to say that Bournemouth do get the win. The scoreline, I'm not sure. I think it'll be the same deficit. I think Bournemouth will win by the 2 goals, but I'm going to go with a 3-1 win. Because, they're without Enes Una, they're without fucking Even Ilson. I don't think they'll score as many goals. They'll still score 3 because Altara has been a revelation. He's just come into that team and he's dominated. But yeah, I think that they are going to get the 3-1 win at home against Wolves, which I believe, as it stands, would put them in the top four. They are absolutely sensational. I mean, if you look at the table right now, Bournemouth are sitting fifth. They are 1 point behind fourth place Man City. Imagine saying that at the start of the season, that we would be 25 games into the season and Bournemouth would be 1 point behind City. Absolutely insane stuff. I'm not going to talk about the Arsenal game. I'm going to save that for my preview. So if you want to hear about what my thoughts on the Arsenal game, everything to do with that, go and check out the AFC match preview that will come out um, just ahead of that game. So that means next up is Fulham versus Palace at Craven Cottage. I honestly think this is a really tough game. I mean, both teams don't really have a lot of injury problems. I mean, Fulham are without Tete, Nelson, and Harry Wilson. Um, but Palace are just really missing Czech Doucouré. Like, that's it. Um, but they've both got pretty similar form. I mean, Fulham are actually doing quite well. They just got a massive win at Craven Cottage against Nottingham Forest, which I think puts them up to 8th in the table, 7th or 8th. And Palace, I mean, it was a pretty dreadful result. Despite the fact that Everton are in really good form, you can't really be losing to Everton at home. I mean, and that was coming off a great win at Old Trafford in the Premier League and a next round qualification in the FA Cup. So yeah, they've been really streaky, Palace. I mean, they get a big result. I think they're going to turn their season around, and then they just come out with a poor result. So since they're coming off that win against Everton, I do think that Palace will be motivated to get something from this game. I don't think... Look, usually this wouldn't be a must-win game for Palace, but because of how low they are on the table, I was hearing people talk about Europe, and they're not going to get close to that at this rate. So they really need to get some sort of result. And Fulham, I mean, a win is what you'd expect from them. They're so good at home. They rarely lose at home. I know they lost to fucking Manchester United at home, but other than that, they're actually quite a good team at home. I mean, they've just beaten Nottingham Forest, who were actually one of the best away teams in the league for most of the season. They've kind of dropped off a little bit. But yeah, look, this is a really tough game to call. Two teams that I honestly think at their best play very similarly. It's just, I feel like Fulham are more consistent than Palace. So as much as I want to back in Fulham to win, I'm actually going to go with the draw. I'm going to say 2-2, the scoreline. I just think that, you know, you can't really doubt Palace every single week. You know, if they've just had a poor loss, you then expect them to back it up the next week. So yeah, I think Palace, whilst they're not going to win the game, I do think they're going to come away and take something from Craven Cottage. For Fulham, it'll probably be a little bit of a disappointing result. You know, against these lower teams in the table at home, Fulham are going to be hoping to get wins there. But yeah, it's a really difficult game to call. I mean, these are two teams that I've actually liked a lot this season. I've been backing Palace more than a lot of people have. I've been backing Fulham more than a lot of people have. So yeah, they're two London clubs who I actually think are better than they've shown at times this season. I know Fulham are still doing great in the league. They've had a good season, but they're better than they show like at points. Like they should not be losing at home to Manchester United. They're a way better team than Manchester United. So yeah, 2-2 is going to be my scoreline. I think they're going to split the points. Next up, we've got Ipswich Town versus Tottenham. I mean, how do you even go about predicting this game? I mean, Tottenham literally lost to Ipswich at home earlier in the season, and since then, I think their injury crisis has just gotten worse. Their form is shocking. I mean, they did just beat Manchester United, but it's United. Like that, it's so easy to beat that Manchester United team. But I mean, you look at their injury list. No Christian Romero, no Dom Solanke, Heung-min Son. I'm now seeing that Kevin Danso is a doubt. What? Van de Ven, I don't think he's going to play. They're without Dragusin for the rest of the season. They've got so many players out injured. However, they did see Brennan Johnson and Vicario both make a return in that win over Manchester United. And Ipswich is also coming off a good result. I mean, it's not a win, but they're able to get a draw away at Villa Park despite going down to 10 men. That is a great result, especially since Villa are a Champions League club. They're not really playing like it as much this season. I think they have dropped off a little bit. But this is a big, big game for Spurs. Despite the fact that they're playing, that it's just Ipswich away, they need to try and get some momentum after that win against Manchester United. They need to, because I remember they beat Brentford 2-0 at the G-Tech, a massive win that I didn't really think they were going to get. And then they back it up by going out of 2 cups in the span of a week. So yeah, it's just they haven't been able to maintain consistent form. They get a good win and then they just have a shocker. Like, I'm pretty sure that loss to Ipswich was after like a big win that they had earlier this season. So yeah, I mean, they just have to capitalize, especially because they have City at home next weekend, which means that if they can go into that game on the back of 2 wins, although I don't know what's better, because they always beat the good teams after losing to the shitters, so maybe I'm kind of hoping that they fail against Ipswich and then beat City. I don't know. But yeah, this is a really tough game to call. I am going to go with the Spurs win. I do think that they will get it done, because surely they're not going to drop. They're not going to pick up. Surely they're not going to fail to beat Ipswich Town. I mean, last season they actually had a good record against the relegation clubs. We laugh at Spurs because they're so, oh, they beat the good teams, lose to shit teams. But last season they actually did well against them. This season it's been completely different. I mean, they picked up 1 point across 2 games against Leicester, drawing away at the King Power and then losing at home. Fucking Southampton, they smashed them 5-0. And then Ipswich, they've already lost. So yeah, I think they have to win this. You can't beat Manchester United and then lose to Ipswich Town. I don't care how shit Manchester United are. That is still a good win. You can't lose that. If Spurs lose that, I mean, they're just completely cooked. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 Tottenham. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they lose, because they are quite shit. Then we have the late kickoff. Aston Villa host Chelsea at Villa Park. And, I mean, I feel like these teams have sort of on similar runs of form. Chelsea, they've picked up 2 wins in their past 10 games against Premier League opposition, and they were both at home against 16th West Ham and 17th Wolves. So they haven't beaten a team out inside the top 15 in 2 months. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, look, they do actually have a lot of injuries. They were doing well at the start of the season when they weren't having players injured, but no Madueke, no Nicholas Jackson. Their defence is just a little bit cooked because they're without Wesley Fofana, and I don't trust any of their other defenders. Attacking-wise, they look really poor. I don't know if they're even going to score against Aston Villa. The one thing that they do have in their favour is that Villa are playing in midweek, which means there could be some fatigue, especially if they take that game really seriously and go all in to try and get a result against Liverpool, because it is a big, big fixture at home. It's literally going to be the hardest home game they play all season. But I still don't think Chelsea get a win. In fact, I think they lose, honestly. Chelsea have been so poor. I could really see them losing. Do I give them the benefit of the doubt? Maybe. I'm just going to go 1-1. I think that because Villa have that earlier game in the midweek, plus when Villa went to Stamford Bridge, they got absolutely battered. Yeah, Chelsea beat them 3-0. They do actually have a half-decent record against Villa. I mean, it's pretty neck and neck between them, so maybe that does mean Villa gets some sort of result, because Chelsea rarely beat Villa twice in a season. I mean, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, they really do kind of struggle against Villa. It's really 50-50 over the past couple of years. So yeah, I'm going to go 1-1. I think it'll be a little bit of a boring game. I'm going to be watching it, so hopefully Villa absolutely batter Chelsea. I have actually had some pretty successful hate watches. I've watched a lot of Chelsea's games this season. But yeah, I don't know. It's a toss of the coin. I just think if that midweek game wasn't there, I'd go with Villa. I would. But I mean, Chelsea clearly have the stars. I mean, does Cole Palmer get back into form? If he has a good game, then maybe Chelsea win, because they only ever score goals when he's on it. So yeah, they are definitely going to struggle. But I'm going to just go with the draw. Aston Villa 1, Chelsea 1. Then we move on to Super Sunday, just the 2 games, starting with Newcastle facing Nottingham Forest at 2 p.m. This is a very, very big game in terms of top 4. I mean, Newcastle have just been battered by Man City, absolutely battered. But other than that, they're actually in half-decent form. I mean, they did have that bottle job against Fulham at home, but, I mean, beating Arsenal to secure Wembley, they've been good, and whilst they're seventh in the league, they're only they're only 3 points off the top four. And if they beat Nottingham Forest at St James's Park, then it'll mean that they're only 3 points behind Forest, and it'll just completely open up the top four race because Forest are currently 3 points clear of City, who are one place below them. So City could overtake them if they beat Liverpool. A whole lot. This is a massive week for top four. You know, if Arsenal win their game, and Forest lose, then that means Arsenal are well ahead. They're not even thinking about not making top four because Arsenal are already 6 points clear of Forest. So yeah, this is a big game. If Forest win this game, then it'll be pretty difficult for anyone to catch up to them, especially if City lose. Imagine if City lose and Forest win. That will put Bournemouth fourth, and it'll put Nottingham Forest 4 points clear of fourth. So they'd actually have a somewhat decent cushion. So it's a pretty big game. I mean, Newcastle won at the City Ground earlier in the season. I think it was one of Forest's first losses of the year. It stopped like a pretty good run of form, and I think after that game, Forest went through a bad patch where they lost 3-0 at the Emirates, then went to the Etihad and lost 3-0. And if I'm looking at it, Newcastle is a little bit of a bogey fixture for them. I mean, they went out to Newcastle in the Carabao Cup in August. So yeah, I mean, maybe Forest then take it to Newcastle and get a result. It's an interesting fixture. I honestly, both teams coming on a loss, it's really hard to call. I'm going to go with the draw. I'm going to go with 2-2. And I think that Newcastle would be a little bit disappointed because if a Newcastle fan would have said if they're going to make top four, they'd have to win either City or Forest. They'd have to win one of those games, preferably winning both. But to pick up 1 point in two big top four games, they might feel a little bit disappointed. I do feel like Forest would take a draw, considering that they're already clear, but it would be nice for Forest to get that cushion with a win. But yeah, I'm really excited for this game. This could go either way. Real toss of the coin. I am going to go with a draw. I think Newcastle 2, Nottingham Forest 2 is the result. And I mean, the top four race is wide open. I'm really excited to see how this ends up finishing. And then we ended off with the biggest game of the week. Manchester City take on Liverpool at the Etihad. I mean, this game could mean so much for so much. Like, Liverpool, the two big away fixtures that they've got this week could be season defining. If they get two wins, then that means that they will be guaranteed to be 10 points clear of Arsenal at least. At least 10 points clear of Arsenal. I know Arsenal will have that game in hand, but just seeing a 10-point gap, it'll just be soul crushing for Arsenal after, you know, all the injuries that we've had. I'm not going to talk about Arsenal. I need to talk about this game. But then if Liverpool go and drop points, then that will give Arsenal a chance to really bridge the gap in a season that I think Liverpool have been head and shoulders better than Arsenal. Like, imagine if they draw both of these games. Imagine if they pick up 2 points. That'll put them on 62. Say Arsenal beat West Ham, that'll put them on 56. That will mean that that Liverpool are 6 points clear of Arsenal, and Arsenal have a game in hand. So if Arsenal then win that game in hand, it'll be down to 3 points, and it's anyone's league. And I just feel like the gap between the way Liverpool have been playing and Arsenal have been playing, Liverpool honestly should be further ahead than they are. I think Arsenal have actually been a bit, I don't know, it's weird. But then from a Man City perspective, I mean, they've beaten Newcastle. Back it up. You've just beaten a top four rival 4-0. Battered them. Absolutely cooked them. To host the league leaders and then win, I mean, that could give them a massive momentum swing because they've responded well. I mean, it's been so weird. In the span of a week, they lost 5-1 to Arsenal, lost at home to Real Madrid, but then they can beat Liverpool, and you'd say that they can kickstart a winning run. I mean, it's been such a weird season for Man City. Like, they defensively, they've been so poor, but then they've had results against Fulham, against Newcastle and Forest, where they've absolutely smashed them up. When they went to Anfield, they got played off the park. 2-0 was a flattering scoreline for Man City. That game could have been at least 5-0. But I mean, Liverpool don't win at the Etihad. They just don't. They get draws there, and but this is I feel like this is the first time in a long time that Liverpool will go away to City, and a draw will be a disappointing result. I mean, this is the first time when this is a genuine must-win game for Liverpool. They can't slip up because if they drop points, then that's just inviting Arsenal to capitalize. And for me, I don't think City are really looking at title because they are you can say that, oh, if they win this game, they'll get a momentum run and they'll go on a run, and Liverpool will slip up, cracks are showing, all this stuff. But Manchester City are 16 points behind Liverpool. They are done, absolutely done. I think if there's one team that even has a slight dream of catching Liverpool, it's Arsenal. And I've said that this league is pretty much done. But yeah, massive, massive game. If City win, then they could go up to third. It would also kind of put a bit of pressure on Arsenal because that would mean that they're only 6 points. If, say, Arsenal lose to West Ham, they'll only be 6 points behind Arsenal. Um, and I do think that if City do, City might be looking to finishing second, but yeah, it's just top four. A win would just keep them in the top four, and I just think that's what they're looking for. This is a much bigger game for Liverpool than it is for City. I'll put it that way. But yeah, both teams would love 3 points from here, especially because of the rivalry. I mean, these two teams hate each other. You know about the, the game where Pep was, giving it to all the Liverpool fans. I've got, 6 titles or whatever. But yeah, there's a City Pool's always a big game. I'm going Liverpool though. I just think this Liverpool team is different. I'm going to say. I'm going to say 3-2. I think City do score goals because Liverpool's defense has looked a little bit leaky. I'm going to go 3-2, but I think Liverpool, they win the game. And that is going to be if they win, if I'm right about this week for Liverpool and they win those 2 games, the league is all but theirs. I mean, where else are they going to drop points? So yeah, those are my Premier League predictions for the week. Make sure to leave in the comments what you think is going to happen. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right. I'm very interested to see. But this could, I feel like I'm saying this every week, this could be a monumental week for the season. Whether it's top four, whether it's a title, maybe Ipswich or Leicester or Wolves pick up a result and the relegation battle's flipped on its head. I don't know, but yeah, I'm excited for another week of Premier League football.